Black Magic Woman podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this episode on. We also acknowledge traditional owners of the land where you, the listener or viewer, are tuning in from. We would like to pay our respects to our elders past and present and acknowledge that this always was Aboriginal land and always will be Aboriginal land.
This is a dynamic time to be an Aboriginal business owner. I mean, dynamic in the construction space, renewable energy space. I just get excited talking about it, really. And I think the banks, particularly ANZ, understands that.
This episode is proudly brought to you by ANZ,
a new series of conversations
with different mob around the country
to yarn about meaningful career opportunities within ANZ,
building the capacity of Indigenous businesses and organisations, and helping individuals in the broader community to achieve financial wellbeing and resilience.
Welcome to the Black Magic Woman podcast with Mundanara Bales.
Welcome back to another episode of the Black Magic Woman podcast. I am here on the beautiful lands of the Camaragal people of the Eora Nation. Just over the bridge is my mother's country, and I grew up on Gadigal country, which is Redfern, the CBD. So I want to get into this episode, but I'm feeling really excited because, one, I'm back on my mother's country and I live in Queensland, and I believe that you're joining me from Victoria. Is that true?
Yes, I'm in.
Because you could be anywhere in the world.
I'm in Narm, in Victoria. I'm on Bunurong land, but I travel through Wurundjeri, Wurrung country in order to get here. So yeah, I'm honored to be able to be in this space and serve the great Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander businesses of Victoria as their acting CEO.
Too deadly. So, Donald, we actually ask guests on this podcast to introduce themselves in Aboriginal terms of reference. So, if you don't mind, can you share with my listeners and also our viewers on YouTube your name, tell us a little bit about where you're from and even where you grew up?
Yeah, okay. My name is Donald Betts. I'm a descendant of slaves. I'm a freeman, a Choctaw freeman from Choctaw Nation. I'm a proud son and father and husband. And I was born in Wichita, Kansas, the Midwest of the United States. I moved to Las Vegas when I was 10. Raised up in Las Vegas, so I know my street game is real legit. I grew up in the projects of Las Vegas by a single parent. My mother was a single parent, so we had to endure the life of gangs and drugs and prostitution and all of those things that surround communities that are destitute and lacking an example and all those things. But it was a village. There was a village that raised me up, and some powerful Black men and women, white men and women, Indian men and women, a community that gave me a bit of hope. And I decided at that time, at that age, that I refused to be another statistic. So after graduating from high school, I moved back to Kansas, attended a secular university, Christian university called Friends University, became the first African-American student body president there. And then I applied for law school, was not accepted. And then I decided I'll take my political science degree and run for political office to become the youngest senator, eventually the youngest senator in the history of the United States at the time when elected, and definitely the youngest senator when elected from the great state of Kansas. So that's my U.S. journey. And then, to get to Australia, I was nominated with the American Council of Young Political Leaders to learn about the federal and state parliament system. While on that trip, I met one of the most gorgeous women of my life. And then down the line, after she not giving me the time of day, I eventually won her heart in friendship, and then that led to a relationship, and now we have two beautiful children. We live in Victoria, and I'm a lawyer, and she's a businesswoman. And in a nutshell, that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Well, like, massive congratulations on all of your achievements.
Thank you.
You still look quite young, so interesting with a career in political science or in, politics. I would think that would like age people.
Well, it did
You
age
still,
me.
they say black don't crack, right?
You know it.
So you're still doing your thing. You went into law because you said you didn't get into law at first.
Yeah.
What made you go back to law?
Well, it's always been a dream since I was 10 years old. If you look at my Wikipedia, I lay it out there many, many years back. But that has always been my goal. Politics was the second. It was the fallback. Everyone says you always need a backup plan. Well, to get involved in politics was my backup plan. So I looked after my father-in-law and took care of him until he passed, and then I knew that was the right time for me to jump into law here in Australia. I'm the first African American to earn a Jewish doctorate in this country, and I do a lot of work for my First Nations people. Most of the work that I do is pro bono work, even if they can afford me, and we just go along with it. I cut my teeth at Norton Rose Fulbright, global number 4 firm, before working with their joint venture, Jeremy Legal, Australia's first national majority Indigenous owned law firm. And then 2 years ago, I started my own practice, Betts Law Company, based out of Melbourne on Collins Street, 470 Collins Street, level 2, suite 5. So,
Well, now we know where you are, and for all of the mob listening, you know what that means. That's an open invitation that brother, although I end up calling you uncle.
no, not yet.
If we're brother, I know when people call me auntie, I have to remind them, like, hey, sis is fine.
Yeah, exactly.
In my community, my family, I do a lot to try and support as many people as possible. So when you talked about pro bono and just giving back and supporting people, it resonated with me a lot, and it just made me think about like the work that you're doing now at Kinaway.
Yeah.
I had the privilege to come to Kinaway and ANZ's Indigenous marketplace to celebrate NAIDOC Week. So I came and set up the podcast there. So listeners, if you haven't had a listen to the ANZ Kinaway Indigenous Marketplace episode, I was able to yarn with some really deadly black business owners and entrepreneurs, and they're all members of Kinaway. So I'm really keen for you to share with my listeners who have never heard about Kinaway, what does the organisation do, and how did you end up going to Kinaway? Because a lot of the time we would never have people like you in our organisations, and this is amazing for a lot of people to see that you can work in Aboriginal businesses and spaces.
Absolutely.
We need people with skills, experiences and qualifications and passion and dedication to come into our organisation. So it was really good. When I saw you come up on the screen, I was like, okay. And then I heard you talk and I was like, okay.
Okay.
So I'm really keen for you to share the amazing work. I've only had a little bit to do with Kinaway because my business is registered in Queensland.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about Kinaway.
So the African American community is not too different than from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. We deal with a lot of the same issues, a lot of the same health disparities, the prison population. When I was a senator, I had the displeasure of meeting 3 generations of black men in prison, grandfather, father, and son. And it was daunting and it was shocking and it shook me to the core. I also lost a brother to the system. My brother was in and out of the system his whole life and eventually died on his knees with bullets riddled through his body. And, so when I start studying Indigenous affairs and Indigenous people in the law, I took a real a connection to First Nations people, and I felt at home when engaging with First Nations people in Australia. I didn't feel isolated. I didn't feel like I was the only one. I felt like I was a part of that family, and I still do to the core of my soul. And that's why part of my learnings and my development under the guidance of Deborah Beltman's brother in the law, taught me Indigenous Black fellow ways. He taught me how to engage and understand how Black people in Australia do business, and it opened me up to even more affection and affiliation to First Nations people. And along the way, I met quite a few. And this role at Kenaway just so happened to be that because of relationships that I had built with the RMIT Global Trade Routes program, a gentleman by the name of David Parkin, Aboriginal brother, reached out to me and said, hey, previously I was at the Wurundjeri Corporation leading their organization, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation. After I finished my secondment there, they reached out and said, hey, we need a deputy CEO. Would you consider coming on board? And so I met the board of directors, and we initially did a 6-month stint, a 6-month secondment through my law practice. And I came on, and then the CEO resigned, and they asked me to stay on another 6 months, and then a further 6 months. But since we've been there, Kenaway, I've learned that Kenaway means in Gunai Kurnai language, exchange. So I thought, what about, when I sat with the board, when we started talking about our strategy, I said, let's open this up. These businesses should be going global. They are just as formidable as any other business in this nation or any other nation around the world. Why are we not looking at a global alliance? So I said, it's time to build that army. I reached out to all of the chambers of commerce, the ethnic chambers of commerce, Sri Lankan, Italian, the Finnish, the French, the Americans, everyone, to say, hey, we are open for business. Come check us out. Let's see what's going on. We're going global. So last year I thought, I want to be really ambitious. I want to take businesses overseas. So we decided we'll take the largest First Nations trade delegation in the history of Australia to my state of Kansas, and to show that, doing business in the state of Kansas is a lot easier than doing business in LA or New York. You go to places where people are interested in you and about you, and not about your race and who the people you came from. So as a result, we had a resolution drawn up in the Senate, a unanimous vote to recognize Kenaway Chamber of Commerce as one of the trading bodies for Australia and Kansas. That resolution is now in our office today, and now we're getting attention from DFAT, NIAA, IBA, Victorian government, the federal government, and as a result, I just recently signed the. Initially, normally with some of these signatures, you have to get board representation, but the window was it was a short opportunity for me to be able to solidify this for the chamber. But I've signed documents to sign Kenaway up as the official host for the World Indigenous Business Forum next year, October 2025. So you're going to have to be there to be interviewing these World Indigenous businesses. So Kenaway is the peak body organization in Victoria to certify Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander businesses. We have almost 400 deadly Black businesses that are doing some amazing things, kicking some goals. We were able to secure over $600 million last year in procurement dollars. We have about 250 Tier 1 corporate partners, say about 10 Global Alliance Friends of Kenaway. We're bringing on our registered Aboriginal parties. We're bringing on our not-for-profit organizations. It truly is Kenaway as big as you think.
My brother, I want to move to Victoria, and I have never said that before. I always say, how do people live in this place? It's too cold for me. But the excitement that's happening, that's coming out of, the last 18 months of your involvement with Kenaway is like mind-blowing for me as a Black businesswoman.
Yes.
knowing that this is happening. It's happening. We are going global, and that's one of my biggest dreams, is for our people to do business outside of this country, because we're so limited and so narrow-minded in Australia. Mm-hmm. And then for black fellas, it's hard to kind of we're kicking down doors every day, and I'm sick of kicking down doors.
Yeah.
We want an invitation, open the door, invite us in. So what you're doing is something that I've always dreamt of doing, is going overseas and doing business and being invited. Being invited is having that invitation, then trying to knock on the door and get people to give you some of their time. So Kinaway obviously has a partnership with ANZ. You mentioned you've got 10 corporate partners. Yeah. Tell me about this partnership with ANZ.
Yeah, so ANZ is one of our 250 Tier 1 corporate partners. And just as a disclaimer, I am stepping down from the Kinaway Chamber of Commerce at the end of December. We've just hired our new CEO. He's just as dynamic, and I'll be supporting him through his at least his first year. But Shelly over at ANZ is absolutely remarkable. I love Shelly. She is the type of person, a lot of folks you meet, it's about looking at the watch. They're always looking at the watch. They're trying to figure out how they, get to the next meeting. But Shelly, she engages with you like you're the only person in the room. No one can interrupt or make that disconnection. Shelly at ANZ is the CEO's top pick. She should receive the Employee of the Year this year. ANZ has committed to do more with First Nations businesses, and I believe them. They've just recently rolled out this dynamic app for their customers, but also they're really sitting at the table to say, what can we do? What can we do besides yellow goods? How can we help you with your cash flow? How can we help you understand financial literacy a little bit better? So everything is on the table. And this partnership came as a result of other folks not really wanting to truly engage. And ANZ said, you know what, we'll come see you. They sent their upper crust to come see us and sit in our boardroom, and it's been smooth sailing since. So in a nutshell, ANZ, I tip my hat off to you. You're doing a great job.
I've got to back you there, not only because this is an ANZ Partnership Series. I've been doing business with ANZ for about 7 years. And we've been rolling out cultural capability training right across their business, and then just supporting in different areas. So Shelley and I have been working together on their First Nations engagement strategy. So I've been doing some consulting.
There you go.
And I can see what's happening, and I know the impact that having a First Nations woman or a First Nations person in this role for the very first time to lead up, like Indigenous affairs.
Yeah.
So there's some exciting things happening at ANZ, but so exciting for our businesses, our mob.
Yes.
Your members, do they get access to ANZ, or is there opportunities for your members that are 400 black businesses across the state of Victoria to engage with ANZ? Like how do ANZ support the members, not just the organisation?
I think in terms of ANZ, they're getting their strategy together and they want it tight. We've just entered into our partnership with them. They're in constant discussions about how do we do it. So anytime we need some help, I'm like, you know what, Townsend, can you help this business? Can you, we need to set up an account. First, can we get some financial literacy? Can you, throw us a little package together? And they're relentless. They make it move. They make it happen. So if you don't have a bank, somebody that's going to walk step by step with you to help you understand those financial questions that sometimes you're too embarrassed to ask about, hey, don't feel embarrassed. We're not all accountants. That's what they get paid for, to advise us. So utilize ANZ Bank.
So that's the Indigenous Small Business Banking Services. There's a program there. So Google it or jump into our show notes so that you can, read more. Brother Donald, there are many banks in this country.
Yeah.
There's some big banks and small banks, but not all of them have Indigenous business bankers. So when I saw Townsend on a call and they said, hey, this is your new banker, I was like, okay, so brother, you're like the real deal. You're not just supporting the business bankers. I had never seen a black fella in that role before. Yeah. It's so empowering, right? But really importantly, just for our mob to be able to talk to somebody like us.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really understand how important it is. We feel much more comfortable. There's no shame there. I was going through a bit of a tough time, Donald, earlier this year with cash flow.
Yeah.
December, January for me as a business, doing training where everything kind of, shuts down and everyone's going on Christmas holidays. There's always this kind of struggle, January, February, then we're back on our feet and then we're, kicking goals.
Yeah.
I just need to put things in place. Like I've got 2 mortgages. I just need to make sure that I've got 11 staff. There's 11 salaries.
Yes, ma'am.
This business is really important in terms of the impact that we have in this country by developing, cultural capability.
Yeah.
And helping more Australians understand who we are as First Nations peoples and also understand the history of this country. Yeah. So we were able to get through without getting an overdraft or a loan.
I love that.
We got through. There's some other deadly black fellas at ANZ. Have you been able to go and connect with any of the other mob at ANZ yet, Donald?
Yeah, I went and had dinner with the CEO and all the directors and to represent Kenaway. I was the only black man in the room, but I'm a big presence. I'm 6'4", and I don't mind talking about the issues that our businesses are going through. Cash flow was one of them, and the fact that we need to do more. And I don't hold back. Maybe it's because of my political background or my in terms of serving as a corporate lawyer. By the way, reach out, check out my website www.betslawco.com. But yes, I sat with these gentlemen and these ladies. I had Google on one side, I had Deloitte on the other, and it's just about having that presence, not being afraid to talk about Aboriginal business, not being afraid to let them know that Aboriginal businesses are just as formidable as any other business. It's just that you got to give them a chance. You got to give them a seat at the table. Let them sit down, and then you will be astonished at what goes on. We can do anything from cryogenics to chocolate chips. It's like
I love this.
You know what I mean? Show us the table. We'll sit at it, and then you'll be happy you did. We have the first paint company, Jigga Paints. We have a dynamic flooring company, Dreamtime Flooring, and a pajama range, Dreamtime Range. Beautiful pajama range, beautiful silks. I mean, you can do so much with logging on to kenaway.com.au or kenaway.com.au. Check out the website. Reach out to our other deadly black businesses in the Northern Territory and Western Australia and Queensland. You will be astonished at what we can do. So when it comes to ANZ, they recognize that now. They see the bigger global picture. And the fact that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander business owners are not sitting tight in the country and they're going over to China and Italy and the United States and Canada to do business. I believe these banks are looking and saying, "Oh, we better get some of this. This is a dynamic time to be an Aboriginal business owner. I mean, dynamic in the construction space, renewable energy space. I just get excited talking about it. Really, I think the banks, particularly ANZ, understands that. And
Donald, this is what we need. We need to be able to get people to see the value that Aboriginal businesses bring to the table.
Yes.
They say that for every $1 you spend with an Aboriginal business, the social impact equals $4.41.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that helps me support many people in my community that say, how did you get into business? Can you have a look at my logo? Or can your producer produce my podcast because I don't have any money? We do so much for our communities. We are constantly giving back to our community, and we need to make sure that we can, that it's sustainable as well. So when people become members of Kinaway,
Yeah.
do they pay a fee? Like, just so for Victorian businesses, if you're listening to this podcast or you're watching it on YouTube, how does an Aboriginal business or a Torres Strait Islander business join up?
Okay, so we have 4 different categories. The top category is the Deadly Black membership. These are for businesses that are already procuring $5 million, $20 million, $100 million contracts. They come on board $5,000 for a Deadly Black. And what that $5,000 does is says each one, reach one, teach one. We take that back and we give it to members that can't afford it, right? So if there's a member that comes to us, no one is turned away. I just want to put that out there and be clear that no one is turned away, because we have these Deadly Black members that said, don't turn anybody away. So, we're going to support that membership for that young Aboriginal business or for that new startup. The entry fee is $150. That's the gold dust member, and that's the entry level where you get certification, you get a little help here and there, you might get a podcast, and I don't know all of the levels. You got to call Wurundjeri woman Georgina Parisi if you want to know the details about the memberships. Then there's this special category, the Sapphire Teal member. The Sapphire Teal member, and all of these names were created by the Bevan Melman, the director of Jigga Jigga Paint. So these are actually paint colors you can get. So Sapphire Teal is from the Sapphires movie, with Deborah Melman. So we call that Sapphire Teal. It's an artistic creative space for artists. That's $300, but we've waived the fee for members in that category if they donate a piece of art that we can then sell off to help support the chamber. And then there's the Desert Red Dusk, and that's a $750. Again, that's another category of member. And that's what's so dynamic about Kinaway. We give everything that we raise, we give back. We've also laid out an app for all of our members that join. It's the Kinaway app, and it's a way for folks like ANZ to track social procurement. So it's track their social procurement dollars. If they engage with our members, they can do that all through the Kinaway app. And if you come into the Kinaway Business Awards, you'll be able to download that app for free for 1 year in order to engage with our businesses and do all of those things. So have you heard of a gentleman by the name of Patty Mills? Do you know a guy named Patty Mills?
I actually live down the road from his mum and dad.
Well, Patty Mills just entered, the U.S. and Australia has been on this kick about Indigenous to Indigenous business between Australia and the United States, and it's kicked off. Patty Mills just signed a joint venture partnership with the first Native American company to be registered in Australia called Akana Aitatoba. The company's name is Akana Mills. Akana Mills just opened their bank account with ANZ Bank. So it's all coming together in a beautiful way. So I'm excited that these opportunities, these joint ventures, and these business opportunities are happening for our First Nations people with the help of the dynamic team at ANZ Bank.
Donald, my brother, I just want to yarn to you, and I will be hitting you up after this podcast. We need to stay connected. We need to get some of these Deadly Black businesses on this podcast.
Yes.
Can't wait to come to the World Indigenous Business Forum, which is going to be held in the Kulin Nations next year.
Absolutely.
2025. But look, I just want to say thank you on behalf of just our people for someone like you to come and show us what is possible, that realizes our potential and knows what value we can bring to the world. There's not many people that I've met in my lifetime like you. So it's been an absolute privilege to even have, half an hour with you on this podcast.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be with you, sister. And call on me anytime. Let's make real generational wealth. 7 generations deep. 7 generations deep. It's important we do that.
Let's do it. Well, look, I need to let you go, but I just want to say, if any of our listeners that are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that actually reside in the state of Victoria reach out to Kinaway and see how you can become a member. I think it's extremely important as a businesswoman myself to join your chambers of commerce, to make sure that you are surrounded by people in a community that can support you, that can guide you, that can mentor you. And sometimes we just need, someone else that's got some experience to give us some advice. So it's so good to see that Kinaway is literally, I didn't think Kinaway was doing big things. I knew Kinaway was pretty deadly because I see a lot of things that's happening online. I've been to a few events, but taking Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander businesses globally has blown my mind, and I'm sure all of our listeners and viewers that are watching and listening are probably thinking the same thing, that they're pretty chuffed that this partnership with Black Magic Woman and ANZ exists. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to have this yarn with you. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to coming and see you. I'm actually in Nam next week. You watch. I'm going to be hitting you up.
Let's connect. We got to connect.
Let's do it. So look, I'll let you go. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing the great work that you're doing in this space, and I can just see the impact already. The world don't even know what's about to happen engaging with our mob.
No idea.
Oh, good, my brother. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Bless you.
Again for making time.
Thank you. Bless you.
If you'd like to know more about how ANZ can help improve your financial well-being or help you start, run or grow your business, visit anz.com or call 131314.
A big shout out to all you Deadly Mob and allies who continue to listen, watch and support our podcast. Your feedback means the world. You can rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify, or even head to our socials and YouTube channel and drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. The Black Magic Woman podcast is produced by Clint Curtis.